what made me become a sex therapist, I guess, and what made you become sort of the modality to cover all.
But then that might segue in to what's and like things like what still motivates us and speaking to people as if they've never come across it before, or they don't really understand what therapy is. Maybe because I had a conversation like that this morning.
Hi, and welcome to The Paradox of Change, a podcast dedicated to inspire people to talk. Today, our resident therapist Lottie had the opportunity to invite James Penney, a fellow counsellor and psychotherapist known for his blend of humour and energy and unflinching honesty, to have a chat with us. James isn't just a therapist, he's a fearless advocate for embracing our true selves, deeply committed to his clients and brave enough to say he loves them, which I understand dearly. Get ready for a lively interview that promises challenges from some perspectives. Let's dive into the world of self-discovery with James Penney.
You've got a radio voice. I can hear. Do you know?
I can put my audiobook.
Alan Newman on Solent. Yeah, you sound like him every now and then. No, right, okay, yeah, he's a friend of mine, and he's got that bit where your voice goes down slightly.
Down. So yeah, when you asked that, what were you thinking?
Well, just what made me become a sex therapist, I guess, and what made you become sort of the modality to cover all eventualities or.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bit of a story in there. It's by accident. Yours might be a little bit more entertaining, but then that might segue in to what's and like things like what still motivates us to keep doing this job. I don't know. Often people talk about. You must have your life all together. Yeah. If you're a therapist, it's like,
of course.
Does that annoy you?
No, it just there's a moment of like, oh, how wrong are you?
I think that's.
I have my shit together way more.
Yes.
Than I used to.
Yeah.
Way more because I'm aware of where my shit is.
Yeah.
What it is. Yeah. And how to manage it.
Well, the awareness is the key, isn't it? For sure.
And that's part of this journey.
Understanding yourself.
You can't really, I don't think, ever shut yourself down to again.
It's the working towards.
The once you know, you can't unknow.
Quite.
Yeah, definitely.
Unless you're completely crazy.
Yeah.
I'm ready for my close-up.
So were you recording?
This is where you both go silent.
So can you just say what you had for breakfast? We'll move into intermittent fasting. That's what I'm talking about. I am curious about the name, though, just for clarity, just so you can help me understand where that came from.
Okay, Carl Rogers, person-centered.
Right, which bit? Remind me.
Right, when you truly know yourself, then you can start to change.
Okay, but it very much reliant on self-awareness and knowing who you are. And then once you get there, you can springboard to changing anything.
Absolutely, but it's the I, isn't it? Working on the I, the I of you. So inner child work, family of origin work.
Okay.
What triggers you? So the paradox of change is when you truly know yourself, you can then start to change.
Mm. Oh, okay.
And it's very powerful. That is. There's more of a sentence to that.
I mean, the word paradox is something that's not easily understood, right? It's a bit of an enigma or whatever. So but that in terms of knowing you.
Yeah.
Well enough, doing the inner work, the self-development work, the self-worth work and everything, then you can change after that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you think about all the things that we talk about to our clients, like attachment styles, meta programs, so how we're acting as a character within the relationship, or as an I, how we're behaving as an individual. Differentiation. So have you got high differentiation or low differentiation, which means can you stand as a person in your own right?
Are you okay to be different with?
Absolutely. Well, differentiation is not about being different. It's about holding that space for yourself while emotionally involved with others.
It's a stage, isn't it, of relationship forming?
It is, yeah.
After symbiosis, I think, is then you get to differentiation.
Absolutely.
Which is then you're an other and I'm me.
Yeah.
And can we tolerate you being you and me being me?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. I guess for me, when we're talking about therapists, what are we trying to say to people who haven't come to therapy, and what would it be like for them to take a risk, challenge themselves?
Okay, that's a broad subject which we could dip in and out of.
Yeah.
Me.
Mm.
And then maybe a bit about, did we know, has it changed before we became therapists to now? And then speaking to people as if they've never come across it before, or they don't really understand what therapy is.
Yeah.
Maybe because I had a conversation like that this morning
Right.
with a client who was talking about the reason he came to see me initially, and then how he kind of wanted fixing, and there was a strong desire for him to come to therapy because there was something wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite a powerful belief, isn't it? That people think, well, I will only go to therapy if there's something wrong.
Yeah.
But actually, it's totally changed for them now. Whereas they were like, I come here because it's integral to my self-care, I think they said this morning.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Which is powerful.
Yeah. Well, that is awareness in itself, isn't it? So it's maintenance.
So what would you say to someone who doesn't know anything about therapy? What would you say therapy is for you?
For me, or...
Yeah, from your perspective, how would you describe what therapy is?
I think it's a sacred space to come and be able to talk about anything you want to, so that it's confidential and giving you a space to be heard, and also how the therapist can work with you. So when I say that, I work in quite a challenging directive way with psychoeducation process. It's quite, with couples, quite program orientated, with singles a little bit different, or individuals a little bit different. But for me, it is a sacred space to be able to come and actually work out what's going on for you.
And when you say sacred space, tell me a bit about what that means for you, because that's powerful, it resonates. But how would you bring that to life for someone that doesn't know what therapy is?
That's a really good question.
I have some thoughts, but I want to know what your take
Well, I
on
guess
it
a
is.
lot of the people I see come to me in crisis, and I wish people would just be able to use therapy as a space before crisis to actually think, right, okay, a bit like you said just a minute ago about the maintenance of being able to use it as a self-care tool instead of waiting till they're in crisis and everything is falling apart, to be able to come and go, actually, I need some booster sessions or some maintenance or something that actually gives them an opportunity to delve into actually all of the stuff that we were just talking about just a minute ago, the family of origin, the traumas that you might have had, what you think about them, how you feel about them, how you're holding them, and give them an opportunity. So that's what I mean by the sacred space. It's actually yours alone.
Sacred.
It is sacred.
It's powerful. And as you're talking about it, I'm instantly thinking, I'm trying to put myself back in the position where I didn't know much about therapy. And to me, that's a big ask.
Yes.
And I'm curious to know what you think, but to invite someone into that space, they might not have a sense of that in their own minds at that stage, at the beginning stage. They might not think, I'm looking for that sacred place.
No.
But isn't it a lot? We ask a lot of our clients.
Yeah.
And when you're thinking about therapy, I wonder if there's a conversation to be had about what it is you're actually opening yourself up to. Because when you say sacred place, to me, I'm thinking absolutely. And for me, it's a space that is not easily replicated outside of the therapeutic space.
Not at all.
It almost has to be that way, otherwise it isn't therapeutic. It has to be built in that way. But it's so profound.
Yeah.
Like for me, therapy is like unconditional, well, I would say love.
So
I know
would I.
Rogers would say, unconditional positive regard, but I've been thinking about it a lot recently, and if I'm going off on a tangent, bring me back.
Okay.
But I actually sat there thinking, I when I work with my clients, I do develop a love for them, a fondness. And I think Yalom talks about the therapeutic relationship being like akin to a cousin. Like there's a closeness, but you're not in each other's lives every day.
Yeah.
And for me, I was like, I get to know these people on an intimate level. And I do think very, very fondly of them. And it's a type of love.
It is. I agree.
And
And
that's...
I love the word intimacy, because I think that is part of it, because they are sharing things with you that they have found really difficult either to share with someone else, or they've tried and it's not been heard. And then they're given, or they've chosen this space to come into, and they've shared stuff with you that they really haven't shared with anyone else. So there is a privilege and a humbleness that comes from me thinking, oh, wow, this is amazing that you've been able to trust me enough to be able to share it here. And my job is to make sure that they feel heard and actually what can we do with it, or what can we be with it. Don't always have to do something.
Exactly. How can you sit with and
Yeah.
be with that space, with that person in that moment,
Absolutely.
and bear witness to their life and to listen to their story.
Yeah.
And I resonate with that. I feel hugely privileged every time someone opens up to me. From the word go, I have this moment of, wow, that person's just come to meet me. They've never met me before.
No.
They've taken a huge leap of faith and they've opened up about their life story.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm like, that is really huge.
Yeah, it is. And it reminds me of why we do it. I notice you and I are talking really softly as we're talking because I can feel the love that I want to give.
I think it's because I'm entering a place of tenderness and respect that my voice is doing that.
Yeah. But there's something genuine about it, isn't it? I agree that the container that we process, that's not even the right word really, but that we have with them cannot be replicated. That intimacy or love for that client, if you met them in the supermarket,
it would be different.
It completely changes, doesn't it? Just the contract you have is, do you want me to say hello, or should we ignore each other?
That's a whole session in itself. Now, how do you want me to deal with it if we see each other outside
absolutely.
Seeing a teacher out of school.
Yeah.
But it changes instantly.
Yeah,
the energy changes.
Yeah.
The parameters that you put in place, the boundaries, the safety net, that isn't there necessarily.
Yeah.
I mean, we carry it with us, but it does change, and it makes you realise that you can't just emulate that.
Yeah.
Without having certain things in place that make it so therapeutic.
Yeah.
For me. So, it's something to really be respected and preserved.
Yeah.
But I never take it for granted.
No, I don't either. Yeah. And I'm so glad I'm so glad I'm still doing it, and I'm still in it, and I'm so part of it. Yeah, I can't imagine doing anything else.
No, I can't. I feel very lucky to be doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I wonder what might go through your mind. Can you remember when you were perhaps first looking for a therapist? If people listening are thinking about looking for a therapist, what do you consider? What goes through your head?
Yeah, that's a good question, isn't it? I think it's visual, isn't it? What we see on the directories and everything is the person's face. So you think about, what do they look kind? Do they look like they could be?
Thing, Do they look nice?
Yeah.
Do they look kind?
Yeah.
Do they have a friendly face?
Yeah. Because it is all visual, isn't it? Because there's loads of writing after it. So if you're somebody that is very detailed and you'd read all of that, some people don't read all of that. So it would be the first thing that you see, this visual face, I think, I think I can go and see that person.
And then it different for everyone. But some people, like you say, would look at the visuals. Some people would read the bio and making, I guess, assumptions on who that person is.
Yeah.
And thinking, do they have enough of initially? It's like a dating profile, I suppose. We put out what we think is a good representation of us.
Yeah.
We don't want to catfish. We're very open.
Yeah.
But then the people looking for a therapist, they're browsing.
Yeah, of course they
potential
are.
therapists and thinking, this one might fit for me.
Yeah.
But something I always say to people that are looking for a therapist is that it's got to be the right fit.
Yeah.
And it's not about ego. So for me, if I have an initial meeting with someone and they go away and they think, I'm really not sure about this guy. Really don't think he's for me. I'm very open by saying that's absolutely fine.
Yeah. And I always say to them,
you can tell me.
15-minute consultation, or going to meet somebody for half an hour if they give a free consultation, then go and do some research. Go and actually sit with them and interview other people. Don't just do one. See if, because the relational side is so important, how you connect.
And I think that's primarily for me, that's the way I work.
Yeah.
Relationally. Yeah. And if I would say to somebody that's thinking about going for therapy, what you're opening yourself up to is forming a relationship.
Yeah.
With someone, a very specific type of relationship, but you have the opportunity to bond with your therapist, and for that to be a safe environment for you to talk about anything. I mean, just talking about myself for a minute, I told my therapist things that I've never told anyone.
Yeah.
to this day, because the nature of telling them in that moment was so secure.
Yeah.
I don't need to tell anyone else.
No.
I've told
No.
someone in confidence. I thoroughly believe that confidence will be honoured. And actually, that was in that moment exactly what I needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing was off limits in my journey with my therapist.
No.
What about you?
Yeah, same with me. I've shared things with my therapist that I can know that it's going to stay there. But also being able to say to my clients, leave stuff with me and go off and have some fun.
Yeah.
Because the story's being told in different arenas. So with their friendships again and again, and people can't hold that information. It's not that they don't want to listen, but we can hold that information. So come and bring it to me, and then go and off and have a nice time with your friend or your family or whoever it might be, partner. So I think that's really important. We're the container that can hold that for them.
Yeah. Again, I keep harping back to this client I had this morning, but it was a similar conversation where they were talking about how it's different with friends and family. There's a layer of awareness, I think, around not wanting to burden them.
Yeah.
Or thinking that, I've got to say my bit and then you can say your bit. But in therapy, it's different. You can hand over everything.
Yeah.
Like you say, be the container, and then you don't have to do anything else. You don't have to worry about me.
No.
Protect me.
No.
Not say anything because you think it's going to upset me.
Yeah, absolutely. But also there's the two B's, isn't there? When you're sharing it with family, it's either a burden or a bias.
Oh,
because
like that.
because if they've had similar situations, they will have their own way of thinking about what's happened. So they will want to put that bias going, don't stay with him or don't stay with her or whatever it might be. So yeah, it's for me the two B's. I always think about that.
Say them again.
Burden and bias.
Burden and bias. Okay. Sounds like a children's book.
That's it.
Like Bill and Ben.
Yeah.
Burden and bias.
Yeah. Because you're telling people outside the arena of a counselling room and they will have their own opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Whereas we're sitting in a place of actually trying to helping the client to find their own autonomy, come to the conclusions themselves.
I think that's a really important point. I often say to my clients, the only agenda I suppose I have is that you are the most authentic and nourished version of yourself you can be.
Yeah.
That's my only agenda.
That's so nice. Yeah.
And that's why it comes back to that unconditional love, I would say, for me, because actually I do start to feel like a real fondness. And regard, the word positive regard doesn't cover it for me.
No.
I'm like, I really care about them.
Yeah. Yeah. But in the counselling world, people are scared of saying, I love my clients.
Oh, you don't get trained to think about what happens if you start to really think of them fondly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's quite interesting because what we're actually training the new generation therapists to do is form relationships.
Yes.
But not often is it spoken about that actually that forming of a relationship could lead to you actually feeling very strongly about them.
Yeah.
But in a contained way.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, it does, because if you think of all the different kinds of love, it's agape love.
Tell me, I've not heard that term.
Agape love. So there's eros love and there's agape
That's
love.
intense desire.
Yeah,
eros,
absolutely. Yeah. Well, agape love is actually a love for somebody that you formed a relationship with. So it could be a friendship love. It can be a fondness love. But it's not a sexual love.
No. And it's called agape love.
Agape love, yeah.
Okay. Stolen. Thank you.
Give it back.
No, I'm having that one for free. But that's powerful because that's exactly what it is.
It is.
But when do you ever speak about that in your training?
No.
I think you only start to learn that when you're out there practicing.
Yeah.
But for people that are looking to maybe start therapy, for me, that would be really powerful to have some sense of, well, that's what I'm actually going to be opening myself up to.
Yeah.
My clients tell me all the time, that it's more than just coming to talk about your problems. It's this mutual respect, this fondness. We often talk about the difference between being in a therapeutic relationship and a friendship.
Yeah.
But that agape love is quite a nice way of
it's a nice way.
it.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes I remember training and they'd say if your client starts to say things like, I feel like we could go for a cup of coffee, you need to shut it down.
No, I'm afraid I can't. I'm sorry, I'm busy. I'm having my hair done.
This is not what this is.
I'm so sorry. The session's finished. I will see you next week. You'd freak out.
Yeah.
You would.
Yeah. But actually, I work in a way that actually I don't have to say anything to it. it's there. But as they go along in the therapy, you hear them suddenly say, "We're never going for coffee, are we?"
Interesting.
They find their space for themselves. You don't have to say that won't ever happen, because what you're shutting down is that love that's forming from their side too.
Agreed.
That I've shared this really important stuff with you, and I am allowing myself to feel that with you.
I think when I first qualified, I'd have a mini breakdown if a client said to me, "This is like a friendship," and you're like, "No, it's not. It's a professional therapeutic relationship." God, what have I done wrong? But now, I think it's more damaging, like you've just said. I wouldn't comment on it first time around, or maybe even second. It's not breaking a boundary for me if a client says they feel a fondness. If it was a repetitive statement, or they were actually making plans to make arrangements for me to go out for coffee, I'd be like, we need to talk about this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Otherwise, though, I think you run the risk of harming what is a really genuine
I
offer.
think so. Yeah. But do you remember the early days when people bought you a little gift and you go, "I'm really sorry, I can't actually take that." The rejection of not actually taking this thing.
Now I'm like, absolutely, pop it on the pile. Very much welcomed.
It's got it on the bottom of your contract.
Please do not feel inhibited about giving presents. But no, definitely at the beginning of qualifying, or my training, it was absolute cardinal sin. No, absolutely not. Presents, nothing that blurs those boundaries.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose, I don't know what you think, but you have to train in that way, in a rigid way, and be so hyper aware of the boundaries, so that you almost set yourself up to be so ethical and boundaried that then you can start to relax when you start finding your rhythm. Not that you drop boundaries and ethics, but you start to become a bit more fluid. It's actually, I know that this could be a conversation about boundaries. Yeah. However, when that client said, "This feels like a friendship, I can imagine being friends with you," you don't jump straight in. No. Go, no. No, yeah,
I agree.
Oh.
Yeah. And I think that's learnt experience as you go along. Yeah, but I agree with you. The colleges need to keep a really strong boundary to go, this actually could lead to something else. But they're not saying that. They're just saying, don't do that, or don't do this.
Which actually I think could be tweaked. Maybe reframed in a way. So when you're training as a therapist, you don't have the fear of God struck in you.
Yeah.
That actually the whole world's going to stop turning if you do this.
Yeah. I remember the fear of somebody holding this little box out to me, and I could look at it and go, "That's so unethical if I pick that up now." Yeah. There was a fear to it, which is, I get it. You've got to start there to actually then minimise it and go, "That's really lovely. You didn't have to do that, but that's really sweet of you." Because what we're doing is rejecting. We're doing some rejection work there, and I don't want to do that.
Relationally, absolutely, you don't know what you're tapping into.
No. And also, I work with a lot of male counsellors who talk about erotic transference.
Yeah.
Which is not really talked about very much.
Never talked about in training.
No.
Never.
And it needs to be, because, it can become a problem.
I think so. But again, it's like touch, hugging, physical contact.
Yeah.
Again, same category. It's not really talked about.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're talking more from the training to become a therapist side, but it's interesting. If I were to listen to someone talking about training to be a therapist, as well as sort of thinking, right, what do I want from a therapist? That would be really powerful for me.
Yeah.
Do you think it would harm the therapeutic relationship if they knew too much about you to begin with, or do you think differently? Do you think actually it's not a problem that they know a bit about your history, a bit of, like these therapists that have written books and they talk, they're public figures. Do you think that skews it? Or do you think it's not really a problem, because when you start forming that therapeutic relationship, it's very much there and then you're building that in that moment? It's like self-disclosure on a bigger scale, I guess.
I guess it is, yeah. I don't think the therapy is about me. I don't ever stop a client asking me a question. They say, "Can I ask you a question?" I go, "Absolutely." But whether I answer it or not is another thing. But also there's something about that for me, being able to say, I'm with you on all of your stuff. How important is it for me to answer this question? True. So I wouldn't ever shut it down. I would go, let me see how that fits, and what would be the reason that you would ask me this question. Otherwise you're shutting down something again.
And being on the receiving end of counsellors in the past saying, they're not really sure how to answer it. In that moment, it's a minute wobble of, well, why not?
I think so.
What are you not wanting to share? But I do believe that it's great to add in the additional, oh, it's interesting that you ask. I'm not going to withhold that from you. I'm going to answer, but let me just see what it's like for you to have asked.
Absolutely.
And then also, if I've answered, I'll be like, what was that like for you? Knowing the truth of what I've just said.
Yeah.
I'm very open with my clients, actually. And I think I do hold those boundaries in my mind, but I never dissuade clients from asking me anything. I'm like you.
Yeah.
I think the more open you are, the better.
Yeah.
The more relatable you are.
Yeah, no, I think so. I don't want to shut them down. And they're asking for a reason. There's a curiosity going on for them. And it might be related to them. It might be, how many children have you got? So they might be thinking about their children. And so there might be a reason behind it. So
I don't tend to volunteer it.
No, I don't.
I do self-disclose, but it's very much that if it's client-led, then I will very much answer honestly.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's I don't know, it's weird. I think it's only natural when you meet someone for the first time. If you're a client meeting a therapist for the first time, you're like, if you go into their house especially, I'll be like, oh, they got potpourri on there. There's some twigs in the corner there. Nice.
Yeah. That's avoiding the conversation.
Well, it's a nice area. So you want to know.
Yeah.
I'd be like, who are they?
Yeah.
Who is this person I'm talking to?
But I find that they're in crisis and they don't really care about where they're coming to, as long as they've got there and they're sitting in it's when they start to come out of that and they start to have some clarity, they start looking around.
Yeah.
Because my room is actually, full of stuff. So I'm different from other counsellors where it's quite minimal and everything. I've got stuff everywhere. I'm a bit of a hoarder and I love different stuff. And it's lovely because they will talk about some of this stuff. So the singing bowls and the different things and everything. And
I've got jars of buttons and marbles.
Yeah, I love all that sort of stuff. And it can be a talking point, but I don't let it become something that to avoid the conversation and that. So...
But that's I think what the point you've made is if people are coming to see a counsellor, usually they're coming because there's something wrong.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know whether or not we'll ever change that. It would be nice to think that actually I've got some stuff. I just want to work through some things. It doesn't have to necessarily be crisis or there's something wrong, but I want support.
Yeah.
However, it is what it is. And I'd rather someone come than not come at all.
Yeah.
But then when that relationship evolves, you can notice, and I think the client does as well, that it's starting to feel a bit different.
Yeah.
That, like you said, coming out of crisis, a bit more chatty, a little bit more, the time spent going, the weather's doing this, or, what have you been, how have you been since the last time we saw one another? It gets a little bit longer and a bit longer.
It does, absolutely. And they say to me, I didn't realise you had 3 teddy bears there in the corner. I've noticed they're starting to notice things, which gives you an indication that they're starting to have more clarity, where they're coming to, what they want to talk about. So for me, it's important. So they're starting to become visual about their surroundings.
And they're basically just settling into this relationship and the therapeutic relationship and also into themselves. Coming alive again, being more in alignment with who they are. They're chatting, they're more relaxed. It's powerful when they're not in quite such that urgent space.
Yeah. And I think it is trying to find that fit. I don't know completely how you work, but mine is about sort of every 3 weeks looking at what the changes are, what the shift is, 6 weeks, 9 weeks, 12 weeks. I'm actually looking for shifts every now and then. So have you heard of one session therapy?
I have.
Yeah. I seem to be doing that.
It's not the same as rapid transformation therapy with Marianne, what's her name?
No, it's different to that.
Can't remember her surname.
I'm noticing with the work I'm doing, and I'm really reflective, thinking I've done one session with two lots of couples, and we've had a shift already. And I'm thinking, what am I doing that's changing the way I'm working? So lots of reflection going, wow, that's amazing. They're talking already. They're intimate already.
I don't know about you, but I often, in an initial consultation, I often think, well, my view of what that means for a client and me has changed, because actually I would take a long history to begin with. Right. Not that I don't take a history, I do. But actually, when I start to get a hook or a handle or a hunch as to what's going on, I'll then even in the initial consultation, say, this is your investment and I take it very seriously. So actually, here's a little bit of what I think might be going on.
Yeah.
Go away and have a think.
Yeah.
But that's my initial observation. And try and give them something a little bit tangible to take away.
Absolutely.
From instead of saying, thank you so much, go away, have a think and we'll see. More like, well, here's something to think about.
Yeah.
I did it this morning and I was like, I wouldn't have done that years ago.
No.
I'd have very much kept to tell me what the problems are.
Right.
Now I'm a bit in the spirit of a one-time therapy session.
Yeah.
Have this.
Yeah.
With the with the sincerity and the genuineness it's offered. It doesn't have to fit, but think about it.
Yeah.
And if you think, oh, there's something in there,
yeah.
then
And I guess that's how I work, because I listen to the family of origin and then I profile them. So I say to them what I've
sounds
heard.
very forensic. Profiling, but it's like holding them up to stand to the side, have your photos taken, sit down and be interviewed.
Fingerprints. Yeah.
Now sit in that cell. What does profiling mean?
When they've said the family of origin, I'm looking for the underneath stuff.
Right.
So the rejection, the abandonment, how you were loved as a child, how you were shown conflict as a child. So I'm looking underneath all that they've said. So when they actually say, I say, what I've heard you say and you say is this, they sit there and they go, that is exactly it.
It's powerful, isn't it?
It's really powerful.
I would say, for my language, it's I'm looking for the raw spots or the pain points. That's how I would say it.
Yeah.
I'm looking for the wincy moments or the moments where they're like, they pause and they're like, and you can tell there's something hurtful in there.
Yeah.
That's what I've got I think I stole Yalom's analogy of rabbit ears. They prick up.
Oh, yes.
And they're like that.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm listening out for when they're telling their story.
Yeah.
But what clients and people looking for therapists perhaps don't understand is that how we're trained is so specific and so profound and so intense. What we're actually learning is how to truly listen.
Yeah.
It doesn't set you apart from that. You're not any better than anyone else, and you're not, just because of your self-awareness, you're not one up from anyone else.
Yeah.
But you know how to listen.
Yeah.
And that for me has transformed my entire life, because I listen in a way that I never ever thought I would be able to.
No.
And when you're sat with a client, it's amazing how all of your stuff sort of filters away.
Yeah.
And you just summarise there with like, is it this, this, and this? And they're like,
Yeah.
That is what the therapist training for me is one of the cornerstones of what you do.
And we started talking about that together, didn't we? What has this journey been like for ourselves, and how has it changed our life? And for me, there's two elements. It's profound.
Moving in this wobbly chair. That's okay. I'm good.
We gave you the wobbly chair.
I've gone to sleep and I'm like, I've got to move.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
But will I survive the movement? I'm fine.
Is profoundly changed my life, but I feel like it also saved me.
Tell me, I'm interested.
What
you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah, well, where I was at that time, I was looking for something that would give me something to grab hold of. And for me, it was the therapy. Being able to have therapy, learn therapy, give therapy. And for me, I feel like it was my saviour. And I feel like that's not the job I do, it's who I am.
Yeah.
I'm authentic here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
Yeah. So for me, it's twofold, really. Being able to have that opportunity to do that, and to meet the people I've met and the mentors that I've had and everything. I wouldn't change this journey for anything. And I want really good therapists, or really people to become really good therapists. That's why I do the training that I do, to really invest in this. But also I want the clients to realise that actually there's some fantastic therapists out there that can change your life.
Yeah. And because they've invested in that journey, they've really signed up to, if you're willing to immerse yourself so fully into that opportunity, you've just described how it can change you on a core level.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't trade that in for anything.
No.
So, and sometimes I might sort of wince a bit if somebody was to say, my job is who I am. But actually, because of the nature of the job, I find it really difficult to separate it out.
Yeah.
I don't think if I was to not be a therapist anymore, I wouldn't be, me. but the skills that I've learned to be a therapist are going to be with me forever.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
it's kind of a little tricky to separate the two out.
Yeah. And I'm thankful for the awareness.
It's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's ineffable, really. There aren't really any words to describe it. But I mean, if I can swear, it's like, that is some good shit.
Yeah.
Like life-changing.
It is. Absolutely. I totally agree
I
with you.
am not in any way, shape or form the same person. Not even close.
No.
And I had to go through the trenches.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'd have gone through the trenches if I hadn't been in therapy or done the therapy training. So like both.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really dug the trenches out. And I was like, I don't like it down here. But then when I got comfortable, I was like, right, one foot in front of the other, keep going.
Yeah.
And I've had 10 years of therapy. I only recently have stopped my personal therapy. I continue in my own ways, but I consume a lot. I read books, I listen to podcasts. But I've done 10 years. I experienced 10 years of personal therapy alongside my therapy training.
Yeah.
I don't know what other job you would come across that puts you through that much potential to change things for yourself.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I really rebelled when I was doing the training because it's sort of supposed to be a choice to come to therapy and you're made to go to therapy. And I was like, I'm not going to therapy.
I can see how people rebel, but I was like, yeah, sign me up. Yeah. Volunteering class. I'll talk about my life stuff.
I was the opposite. I was like, we should be able to choose whether we go or not.
I feel oppressed.
Where's my autonomy? We go on about every week.
Have you changed your view now?
Oh, well, totally. Yeah, absolutely. And once I got to therapy, I'd been to therapy before in my 20s and everything. So yeah, it wasn't new to me, but it was almost like, autonomy and being able to have a choice whether you go to and then say, right, okay, you got to do 25 hours in the first year and 25 hours in the second, or whatever it was. And I think, wow, yeah, I'm not going.
And then now when I hear that resistance from people when I teach, I think I get it.
Yeah.
Also, I think you're going to have to work on that because
Yeah.
it would worry me
Yeah.
if somebody went through the therapy training and didn't have personal therapy. And
Totally, yeah.
I know that it's a prerequisite for a lot of courses now, but I would imagine actually that some therapists, and this isn't judging them in any way, but some therapists have come out of the therapist training journey and done the minimal.
Yes.
Whereas I've done the maximum and some.
Yeah. But I remember the teacher going, okay, me going, I don't think it's right that we should go. Okay. And I look back now and I think she's just going, you're going to end up This is going to happen.
You were totally going to therapy, Lottie.
Absolutely.
And
I went.
You're going to love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And extended it and done more since because it's amazing. So, yeah.
I mean, my first therapist was when I was 16 and it was profound at that time. I was 16, 17, something like that. But it was through local doctor's surgery. And I just remember it's fascinating, really, actually. A couple of things that really stand out through the years of therapy I've had. I can reduce the sort of standout comments to maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Which isn't discrediting anything that my therapists do. No. But actually, the stuff that sticks isn't necessarily the most profound intervention that we think we've crafted. Yeah. I read it in a big Yalom fan, but another one of his books, I think it was Gift of Therapy. He was talking about, well, it might have been Every Day Gets a bit closer when he talks about his take on a session and the client talks about their take on a session, and it's like a diary. But the point where Yalom talks about having gone away and thought, I've crafted such an amazing intervention, really done some really good therapy there. Yeah. And I think, I'm paraphrasing, but I think the client probably said something like, they just said that I liked your jacket or your hair looked nice. Yeah. What? I spent hours crafting that intervention. Yeah. But it's profound. Yeah. I can count on one hand the things that really stuck with me.
Yeah. The takeaways.
The takeaways.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And actually, sometimes the takeaways don't even happen during the therapy, do they? They happen after.
Yeah, totally.
Could be years after.
Yeah. You suddenly remember. People always say to me, Lottie, sometimes you're on my shoulder.
Yeah. I always apologise. I'm sorry. Just tell me to shut up.
Yeah.
But it's a sign that they're taking away that willingness to pause and reflect. Not that they're necessarily trying to emulate everything that we say, but they're open and receptive enough to think, I want to see if I can reframe this.
Yeah.
And so who can I think about that would help me reframe it? Lottie. What would she say?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
I might do that and see how that goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I always say to my clients as well, actually, the therapy continues outside of this room.
Always. Yeah.
So don't be. I was like, don't think I'm going to be following you around, because I promise I'm not. I'm not going to be stalking you in supermarkets. However, don't assume that just because you're not sat in this room that it's stopped. The moment we start this therapy, it's happening.
Yeah.
All you have to do is conjure me up if you want in your head and say, what would James say?
Yeah.
And more often than not, they say, you would probably say not to be so hard on yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
And then you're like, yes, that's what I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then they build that into them telling themselves not to be so hard on themselves.
God, this is a good journey, isn't it?
I wouldn't trade it
No,
at all. How do you find your friends relate to you and your family in terms of being a therapist, loving your job? Not necessarily you are your job. You are a therapist. You are you. You're authentic, I think you said, in both roles. Do you come up against any resistance from friends and family?
I used to.
Okay.
I don't now. So as a mother, sometimes you'd be talking as a feel of sound that to them it sound like a counsellor. They say, stop being a counsellor, you're my mum. So, and as the awareness grew, I could hear myself trying to have more communication with them on a different level, and they would hear it and they wouldn't accept it.
So what would you do in those situations?
Just cuddle them and be mum.
Be mum.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're not practicing on our children. But that was in the early days when you're sort of trying to find your feet with it all. And
I totally get that. But even when I'm just listening intently, that moment, we all do it, don't we? We just tilt our heads ever so slightly. And my friend's like, stop it.
Yeah.
What? Stop it. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm don't do the therapy thing. And I'm like, I'm just listening. It's like, don't do that thing. Well, I'm sorry, I won't listen. I'll shut my eyes and I'll turn my head in the opposite direction. But they still catch me out occasionally going, you look like a therapist.
Yeah.
I was like, well,
I am.
I am, but therapists listen a lot. So what do you expect?
Yeah. We're good. Your friends are having the biggest space.
Yeah.
Make the most of it.
Yeah.
We're just listen. It's fine.
And I suppose I am authentic in both my personal life and my therapy career. But I think if anything, I do allow myself in my private life to be a little bit more free in what I say. I think that's how I would describe what's different.
Right.
I don't know if you agree. You don't. You might not. I'm thinking about what I'm saying and how it's coming across with my clients. And I am with my friends, but a lot of the time as well, I'll just blurt out whatever's in my head. And my friends just go, oh, that's just James being James.
Yeah.
That's the main difference.
Yeah.
I wouldn't just blurt out with a client or drop in a quick, I don't know how to word it, a quick joke or just something necessarily that's completely off the cuff.
No.
There is a difference between being a friend and a
Yeah, there
therapist.
is. Yeah.
I'm struggling not very eloquently to say what the difference is, but there is one.
I suppose I sit in a different place because sometimes I can suddenly say an odd word that's coming, like intuition word that I think it relates. So I've got hooks around my head when I'm working, and I suddenly say something and I go, I'm not sure whether that relates to you, but it's in the room now, so I'm going to hook it. And usually it comes back. It's something to do with them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, but it will be quite bold and out there, and and not thought through very well. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay to be that spontaneous and go, that means something, but it might not mean anything to you guys. And if it doesn't come back, it's just nothing to do with you.
Often I say when I'm starting to talk about something, I say, this is starting off in a place that's just formed in my head now. I don't know where it's going.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
And they're like,
good luck.
Right, go for it. And I'm like, so I'm wondering. But it usually ends up in somewhere pretty near to where I wanted it to go. But I might not always have a very clear view of where that is.
Yeah, and I like that. I like that we can say that and go, this is just forming. This is actually something I want to say, but I don't know actually whether it fits you two or individual or where it's going to go. And I think that's great.
Do you often feel that working with couples so much that, I'll just rephrase the question, that actually working with couples is you can manage to get to something, quite meaningful quicker with the two people in the room, whereas if individually you're kind of doing couples work, but the other person isn't there.
Yeah.
Or you're doing family therapy, but the family isn't there.
It depends. When you say quicker, it depends what they've given to me in the first place.
I suppose you just have the live person, like
yes,
walking, talking, tangible. Whereas if you're working one-on-one, you like quite often I sit there thinking they need to be here.
Yeah,
like, bring them in.
Yeah, and that happens with me. Sometimes people come in as an individual, and I go, "We need both of you here because there's assumptions being made about the other person, and that's not going to work." So I think he thinks that, not their partner saying that. I think he thinks this, and I think he thinks that, or her. So so it doesn't work.
There's I notice a bit of a hesitancy from people to want to do couples therapy.
There is.
And I think, what's that about? So before we wrap up, I was just going to get your take on it, because I love couples work. Love it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people I come into contact with, I couldn't do couples. It's too much, too much energy in the room, too many opinions. And I just I've never felt that. But do you agree that you think there is a bit of a hesitancy for there to be couples therapists trained and want to do the work?
So. Yeah, I think there's a fear that something will kick off, and also confidence, being able to sit with both of two opinions, two brains, two arguments, two conflict, whatever it might be in front of you, being able to hold that. So that's why I do the playbook. So I help couple therapists become couple therapists, and if they are couple therapists, to actually enhance their practice. Because if you don't have that and you don't start somewhere, did you think at the beginning that you can actually sit with your first client, and how scary that was?
Oh, you're petrified.
Yeah, absolutely. So then you think, right, I'm going to go to couple work. Again, you're going to it's newness. You're going to sit in that place of, this is really scary. But people, because there's two people and they're arguing, you've just got one person, they feel it's less, struggle, less, their confidence with that one person, because that's what we start off with. And then it's elevating to the two people, I guess. And they I think it's fear and confidence, mostly confidence.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The energy or the vibe I get is that people think, oh no, I'm not in any way anywhere near trained enough.
Yeah.
Again, just the way your thoughts work in this moment, I'm like, oh, that's another thing. But yeah, there isn't necessarily, I don't think it's sold that actually couples work can be immensely rewarding.
Yeah.
And actually, once you've done a few, I love it.
But it's so needed. We need more couple therapists. And that's why I go on about it so much.
There's a lack of confidence.
Yeah.
Even if they haven't had formal training, if they've done CPD and they've had proper supervision, I think that's enough.
Yeah.
You've got to start somewhere.
Well, you're a trained counsellor already.
Exactly. So trained counsellor being a trained counsellor with two people, bar the confidence thing, is not different.
Yeah.
You're not really doing anything different apart from that you are an observer to the entity of the relationship that's there.
Yeah.
And that actually the focus is coming back as often as it can to the relationship.
It is, absolutely.
Which is, I find that easier sometimes.
Yeah. And I look at myself as I'm looking at the behaviour, not the personality of the two people. We're looking at how they're behaving towards each other. Yeah. So that's the key to actually go, right, okay, let's dilute some of these behaviours because they're not working.
So more couples therapists, please.
Yes,
please.
Get
training.
Yes.
It's fun. You'll love it.
Come and see me.
Yeah,
let's
go and
do
see
some
Lottie,
training.
do your playbook. I really want to do that, by the way.
Yeah, that would be great.
But if it's, I don't know where I'll be with my supervision training by then. So I might have to do the second round. If there's going to be one, which hopefully there will be.
Yes, there will be.
If the timing works, then great.
Yeah, that would be great.
But if not, then I'll do it next time. But I've
Okay,
really enjoyed
today.
This
is so
I sense
nice.
we could probably go on and on and on about other things. But hey, it's been a great opportunity to chat. And I've actually, as in talking to you, I've remembered things about my journey, learnt from you, reconnected with, not that I needed much reconnection, but why I love what I do.
Yeah.
It's been a real pleasure to chat to you.
Yeah, and ditto, because I think we're in the same place. We love it.
Yeah, we love it.
We
love it. I'm like go therapy at every single possible
absolutely,
turn.
Yeah. Well, let's do more of this. Let's put the word out
I'm
there
up
that
for
therapy is the way.
Yeah, it is definitely the way. So yeah, but thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And
Thanks, James.
I can get off this chair actually. successfully. Oh, great.
We'll edit these bits.
Wow, what an experience we had today with James. Both Lottie and I didn't stop chuckling all day. So what did we learn? Well, counselling isn't just about overcoming challenges. It can be fun, it can be exciting, immensely fulfilling, a journey in a safe space. James has reminded us that striving to be the best version of ourselves is an ongoing, imperfect process that makes us uniquely special. Embrace your imperfections, enjoy the ride, and don't forget to laugh along the way. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, keep talking, keep changing, and keep growing.